I think we'll get started whenever you're ready to record, I guess. Okay, good. All right, we'll call a meeting of the Community Resource and Tourism Committee to order. All is here except for Spencer, which will probably be coming in anytime. We got Tom online. So roll call is done. Approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Make that motion.
All right, we got that second?
Second.
All right, got a first and second. Any further comments?
Where to put it in. I wanted to, who do I ask and when about, the Battle of the Clubs? That was in it.
Yeah, typically that would be during the educator updates.
Okay, that's
Under
fine.
5B.
We're just at last meeting minutes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
All right, seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? All right, passes. Any public comments? I haven't received none. Deanna, none? Oh, nobody else? Okay. Staff reports, Area Extension Director.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. So yeah, it's been a couple of busy weeks. In the sense of navigating some federal directives that have come down, as well as the federal budget that has gone through. So just a couple updates from that. And I did send an email out to all of you, just updating you on where we are at with the SNAP Ed dollars. As you know, our FoodWise program is the education arm of SNAP Ed, and so, or SNAP, it's called SNAP Ed. I'm gonna be deferring probably a lot of this to Sandy, but in the budget that was passed by the House and now is on its way to the Senate, I think they're bringing that up on Thursday. There is a provision in that budget that to remove all SNAP dollars. So that would be a complete cut of the SNAP program, which would include the SNAP Ed program. And that is where your FoodWise educators, where you have FoodWise educators, we have 3.8 FTEs, 4 positions across the 3 counties. Sandy being the coordinator, and then we have 3 educators across the 3 counties. And then I put in there, it's a budget of about, what was it, $368,000 or $329,000 that comes into the 3 county area through salaries, operations, and samples for youth and in the schools and programming that's happening across the area. I don't know, Sandy, if you want to say a few things about that, or
just that also includes, of course, all benefits, all professional development, all, that's what's included in that total amount across the 3 areas.
Yeah. So we're watching that, monitoring that really closely. Currently, that is still has not been passed. The budget has not been passed. And so we're monitoring the situation. We'll keep you updated, of course, as we know more. It's just more and more information coming in almost every day, it seems. So we're monitoring that situation. During this time, we've had a staff change. Hillary Roth, who was in Chippewa County, did accept a position in Eau Claire County for the FoodWise educator. And so Macy Lean has accepted and it's the last one who will be able to accept a position until we know more about budget. But she is going to be in Chippewa County, or housed in Chippewa County, but she will be servicing Dunn County. So we'll probably pull Macy over at some point, or have her come online. Joy and so Jael is the one. Jael Wolf left a while ago now, but so and she is aware of the situation and accepted the position anyway. So we'll keep you updated on that, but we did want you to know that there is a potential that program could be cut from our 3 counties. The other the other area that did not impact Dunn County as much currently, but is an opportunity that has now been taken away from Dunn County, as well as Eau Claire, as well as the nation, the AmeriCorps program. So the AmeriCorps program was cut. And the impacts for extension is that we had 4-H AmeriCorps members that were serving across Wisconsin. We tried to get an AmeriCorps position here in Dunn County. We did not have enough applicants, and so we had not, but we were still looking towards the future of bringing AmeriCorps in. It did impact Chippewa County. We had one currently serving in the AmeriCorps position when it was cut. And then we had a summer intern that was starting yesterday, actually, and 30 other youth across Wisconsin that were going to be serving in that capacity in 4-H. So good news from that is our state institute director for 4-H was able to, through donations, through UW-Madison funds, we were able to honor our commitment to those young people. And so they all started yesterday. So we have those. So Chloe, who was in Chippewa County, is continuing her service. And we have Lily, who has come on as well for the summer. So through the AmeriCorps program, through funding now that we have secured through grants or through some very generous donations, as well as through UW-Madison. So we were able to at least honor our commitment to those young people. So I wanted you to be aware of that opportunity moving forward is not available to us. On the good news, we did hire our summer intern here in Dunn County, Sam. I don't remember Sam's last name. Stevens. Sam Stevens is a college student, and we're going to be bringing her and Ann, our .4 person, when Zach returns. Zach's back on half days from paternity leave, and so I think he said he's giving the report in June. So we'll bring them to meet you at that point and let you know what they're up to over the summer as they're supporting our youth over the summer. Beyond that, I don't have any other updates. Did I miss anything?
So this AmeriCorps, is that going to continue in the future? Or is it just for one this year you got by, and then after that it's going to be
Correct.
looking for more funds every year?
Right. So the AmeriCorps program, it's a national program that's administered at the federal level. That has been cut from. So that was an executive order that was signed by the current president, and so that there will be no more AmeriCorps positions moving forward. So there was, AmeriCorps crossed. I don't know if Mabel Tainer had. I don't know if there was AmeriCorps here in Dunn. I'm sure there were, but if you think about what's the place that we had our area meeting in Eau Claire County? Beaver Creek, they have a number of AmeriCorps members. Marshfield Clinic has a number of. Public Health typically has AmeriCorps members. And so all of those, we were able to continue their service, but as not under AmeriCorps, but under PYD, Positive Youth Development Interns is what they're called now. And unfortunately, for a lot of people who were serving as AmeriCorps members, they were told on Friday that the positions were going to be eliminated, and on Monday they were eliminated. So some didn't even have the opportunity to go into their place where they were serving to even say goodbye or anything. They were just done. So it's a challenging situation, I think, for a lot of places to try to figure out now how to continue the service that they were doing moving forward, especially because they were not finished. They had not concluded their service. Had they concluded their service, it would be a different story. So, but
I'm sorry, I didn't get the intern, Sam Stevens or Stevens?
Stevens? Yeah,
Stevens.
Stevens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Sam is a student at UW River Falls. And so she has a lot of experience in animals and livestock. So she's going to be bringing some programming forward. So that's not an area of strength for Zach. So he's happy to have her.
Any questions for Kristen? Seeing none, move on to B, written extension updates. Anybody got anything to add or questions?
You have,
Bob, can I ask a
Yeah, go ahead,
question
Tom.
of the committee? I know in her memo, Kristen noted that it may be of interest to the board, that the cuts in SNAP Ed may be of interest to the board. I don't, it seems like it might be to me, and I wonder whether it's sort of up to your discretion, but one thing to consider would be uh, for I think, well, one option would be for you to write you to forward Kirsten's memo from the committee to the board with a short note saying that we discussed this at our meeting, just for information, so they know what's going on. But
Just forward, you're saying forward it to the county board.
yeah,
Okay.
but I wonder what the committee thinks of that, if that makes any sense.
I think it's a good idea. I think that people should be aware of what the local impacts of the federal cuts are.
I mean, it could be Bob, it could just be a short note saying that this item was brought to our attention at the meeting, and the committee thought that it would be valuable to share the information with the full board.
Yeah, I can do that. That'd be all right. If it's okay with the board, I'll do that. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Larry, any questions?
SNAP was through Ag Bill. Or not.
It is part of the Farm Bill, but this is I think a separate committee that's taken this on to a degree. So my understanding is kind of a different, how do I explain it? Yeah, a different action that was taken specifically.
and,
Well,
sorry. Yeah, so we're trying to, it's through a congressional action. So so I think for me personally, a lot of what has happened is unprecedented. So it's hard to understand where these are coming from. And so I think that's why it's been so hard to keep track of as well. So a congressional committee proposed and approved these reforms to SNAP. And so that got put into the budget, from my understanding, into the president's budget moving forward, and has gone through the House and is now being taken up by the Senate.
okay. Well, my only comment on the thing is like with everything in life, you're moving along and you keep moving along and you keep trying to improve your lot and position and everything like that. And then often there's a big old stop sign and it says you're not going to be a dairy farmer anymore. You're going to have to learn to do something else. And you reset your life and you move forward and you hope that the new decisions that you're making will send you in the right direction. Uh, we, we've been going down the path for a long time of I was a summer intern, so I mean, I understand these guys, with their jobs and everything like that. But programs change, and you got to hope that the new program that comes along is better than the program that you were part of. So I'm not in favor or against it. I'm just saying that life throws you curves, and sometimes you got to reset and hope you come out the other end better for it.
Bob, could I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, just, I understand what you're saying, Larry, and I actually really agree with you. So I don't think we should be sending this as a sort of any kind of a policy heads up necessarily at this point in time. It's just we will be losing this program if this. I guess yeah, the only question would be is it too soon to let people know, because we don't know for sure what's going to happen in the Senate, and I can see how we'd want to wait until we knew that. But on the other hand, if it's just a heads up, this we learned at our meeting that as of now, the budget reflects that these programs will no longer be available. Just wanted to let the board know. I think that'd be okay.
Yeah, I was gonna send out as an FYI, basically just informational.
Yeah, not necessarily, I hear where you're coming to in terms of the staff. And I think that's the strength of the staff that we have is that what I've not heard from staff is, oh my gosh, my job. What I've heard is, look at the amount of people that are being affected that are no longer going to be receiving these services. And so I just want to make that clarification, because especially in the SNAP program or in the FoodWise program, we have a lot of passionate people who care about their communities, who've done some really good things in the community. That's why we attached, what we did on that email, just so you can see some of the impacts that they've made here in Dunn County. And so I just want to just make that clear that, it's been full force ahead. Nobody has been like, well, you know, this is terrible and what are we going to do? And they've just continued working and continued to do the programming and not and do what they can to make sure that the people, while they're still here, are receiving the services that they provide.
Did you have some questions for the other updates?
Well,
Get your mic on again.
I'll tell you what confused me was having a cold, wet afternoon and actually time to go sit down at the computer and bring this up. So I'm reading all the things that's here on the computer this afternoon. And I'm thinking it's the last meeting, the meeting I missed. And now's the time to ask about the Battle of the Clubs. And I'd never participated or even knew kids that for sure that did the Battle of Clubs, but I do remember how they felt that they were disappointed that that activity had gone away, just like, maybe other activities will go away. And that activity went away. Basically, from what I understood was that, masking up and being afraid of COVID and all that kind of stuff, that we didn't congregate to do things. And now we've gone through that and we've come back together on the other side. And here, we got almost 80 kids getting together for Battle of the Clubs. So, I mean, that's a pretty good interaction, for youth to whatever it is they do with the Battle of the Clubs. But I mean, just think about, it was something that was going along. We were happy, we were serving the kids and we we're doing all this kind of stuff, what we want to do. And then comes along situation, a mask, and maybe you can say, well, the situation with the federal government is also a mask on programming. And you just got to hope that when the mask comes off, the program comes back better than ever and you're smarter than you were before. So, it sounds like it. I mean, doesn't that just sound like fun, Battle of the Clubs? And just, to see that number there, I thought was pretty cool. So that's why I was confused. I was actually on the computer. Messed me up big time. Shouldn't have done that.
I had a question for Garrett. I know you're online up there. Maybe you want to expand a little more on that childcare that's a little short in Dunn County. I was reading your spotlight there and you had a comment in there. Maybe you want to bring that forward a little bit more explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, y'all are catching me at home. I'm off to Eau Claire board meeting tonight. So I'm co-chairing the Health Done Right Childcare Action Team. So Health Done Right for those that aren't familiar, is part of the Community Health Improvement Plan, which is based on the Community Health Action or Community Health Needs Assessment, which identified affordable childcare in Dunn County as one of the top 5 community health concerns. So thinking about what makes a healthy community and the importance of high quality and affordable early childhood education. So we launched that initiative in January and have been meeting about monthly so far. We actually have our next meeting tomorrow. As of right now, the folks that are showing up, we have folks from UW Stout in the preschool or early childhood lab, folks from the chamber, Neil Klein from Family Friendly Workplaces is coming. We have folks that are with childcare support organizations, so that support childhood educators in their pre-licensing process. Um, and then some other kind of folks that are individuals and organizations like Raising Wisconsin and WICA that are thinking more at that state level. So we're at the point now where we're really trying to get some clear action items, looking at potentially doing a survey with the Chamber of Local Employers. So trying to draw out kind of what are the specific needs that they're noticing. We know that shift work is one of the major issues, finding childcare for folks that work second and third. Um, and then thinking about kind of what are some of the creative alternatives that might exist. So we heard from the Grove, which is an employer-sponsored childcare center up in Osceola. I think it's Osceola. So that's one of the other kind of projects that's emerging out of this group is what are some alternatives that might work in Dunn County to try and not solve this problem outright, but at least begin to make a dent in it and make sure that our families can afford childcare, that our kiddos are getting really good childcare because we know that early childhood development is so important for their success and ability to be good citizens and workers across the lifespan. And then it's something that allows parents to show up and work, right? And not be worried about a sick kid or, child daycare's closed, so I can't come in today. So making sure that worker or that employers and workers can have that kind of high quality relationship. So it's still early days, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you for the update. You'll keep us posted as you go along then.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions for any of the other educators? Comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C, extension educator presentation. Ryan?
Yeah, thank you. So this worked when I tested it earlier, which means it's probably not going to work now, but. All right, there we go. So yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it. And glad to add to the discussion that we get to have tonight. So with that, there's a couple different topics I thought I'd bring up. So I was going to kick it off just talking about some general numbers since newer to the position, and then we'll transition to some of the programming that happened over the winter. So I can't remember what month Jerry was on, but he talked about some general numbers, the number of farms in the county, the size of farms, value of egg production. So this is a very similar chart to what he had up earlier. I just thought I'd put that back up here to serve as a reminder and kind of tag on to that earlier discussion. But what I really wanted to focus on tonight was digging a little bit more into the dairy numbers, the beef numbers, and some of the things that we're able to pull from USDA and Wisconsin Ag Statistics on that, just to set the stage a little bit. So if we start with dairy, and this might be a familiar theme that you've heard in other places, looking at the number of farms in the county, the number of cows and milk per cow, and then the Chippewa Valley is the 3 counties in Area 6, Chippewa, Dunn, and Eau Claire combined together. So the number of cows is relatively stable over time. It fluctuates some, but not as much as the number of farms. That's where we've seen more change in the dairy industry. So 69 farms in Dunn County in April. Because dairy farms are permitted, that number is a lot easier to track. I know a few months ago, Larry had a question about beef, and I'm like, I have the answer to it. And then when I started digging a little bit more into it, it's like, Well, beef isn't tracked quite as well because there's not quite enough structure there to find those things. So I'll pull that up next. So this slide is much easier for me to talk about just because there's more structure behind it of if you are a dairy farm, you need to be permitted. So we have a lot of confidence in that number of farms, so on and so forth. But if you want to kind of just keep a snapshot of those numbers in your mind, we'll switch to beef, where we have 304 farms in Dunn County and around 800 in the Chippewa Valley. How the number of cows is counted, I'm not in charge. If I was in charge, I would try and do it a little bit different, but this is what we have to work with. And so there's a couple different definitions of what a beef cow is what I'm trying to get at. So we have cows that have calved. Those are those mother cows like we see in the picture that are raising calves. Those calves are hitting the ground now or a little bit earlier this spring. There's about 5,500 of those in Dunn County. Then you have your animals that are destined for the feedlot, destined to be processed as meat. There's again around 6,000 of those present in the county. And then I pulled this total number because you have some animals that fall through the cracks that don't quite fit either of those categories. So that baby calf that's born now, we don't know what that baby calf's going to be a year or two from now, so they don't always get counted. So when we look at that 67,000 number, it's a lot bigger number that is dairy and beef combined, but that encompasses all ages. So it's just a few different ways to look at some of these numbers. The number of cows and cattle on feed gives us much more detail and helps direct programming better. But if you're just curious how many cows are out in the area, does this change or not, that's where I like to show that total number. Just paints a more complete picture, if you will. And you can compare that as well to Chippewa Valley. So if we're thinking dairy and beef, more beef farms than dairy farms, but more dairy cows than beef cows. And that is a very familiar trend that has been going on in the state for several years. We see this in other areas, especially in western Wisconsin, the western counties that border the river. If we switch gears and think a little bit more about the other livestock out there, the sheep, the goats, the pigs and whatnot, there are some numbers that we can pull up for those as well. So small ruminants is kind of the more umbrella term for all the sheep, dairy, goats, and meat goats combined. There's 84 of those farms in the last ag census in Dunn County and around 260 some in the Chippewa Valley. We can get some detail on if they're more sheep or dairy goat or meat goat, which I have in there. So about 1,600 sheep, about 500, 600 dairy goats, and a few more meat goats. So Dunn County is slightly different there, where it's a little bit higher, more interest on the meat goat side. There's that NA for the Chippewa Valley number, just because not all the counties in the area have as many farms. So when the number of farms gets too low, they don't report it just to keep the statistics anonymous. So if there's only 5 farms, and that's not what it is, but if it's a low number like that, people start trying to guess exactly whose farm that is. And so sometimes those numbers don't get reported then. So that's why we have that little gap in the data there. But again, that's getting into the weeds. If we're just thinking bigger picture, again, kind of the general sense of the number of farms out there that are interested in doing this and kind of what the breakdown is by species there. If I look at some of the other counties, there might be a few more dairy goats than, say, what we see in Dunn County. And the same thing, if you're interested in the swine, there's not as much detail, but about 35 farms and about 6,500 head total in the swine industry around here. So being the newer person on staff, there's a lot of learning to do and a lot of learning left to go by all means. But you can think about this, or I've tried to think about this in a few different ways. It's learning the Dunn County office and the Dunn County building here. It's learning Area 6. We just had an area meeting with all the Area 6 people together. And then it's also the other extension people are working in ag. I have counterparts that are specializing in dairy and livestock in other parts of the state, trying to connect with them. And that's all that internal learning that you get a lot of stuff thrown at you, but that's part of it. And then externally, just some of the partners that I've tried to make connections with. A lot of this has been just, how to, make sure I get their meeting on my calendar or make an appearance and just trying to do some of the meet and greet. So Farm Bureau, Farmers Union, the Hay River producer-led group, it's more crops focused, but they did have one night where they're focused on beef production. So I was able to participate in that meeting. Some of the agribusinesses do their own events, trying to get those on the calendar. And then farm visits as appropriate. That looks different than what it did years ago, just as these jobs have changed and geography has changed. change. But now that seasons have changed, it's a little bit easier to do that. So that's going to be an ongoing thing that trying to keep working on through the spring and summer. And here's a picture, again, some of that internal learning, one of the projects Jerry's working, and I've heard about these things over the area or over the years, but we were far enough geographically removed. I always didn't get out there. So then this spring, it's like, okay, let's get out there and see hands-on some of the stories that Jerry's been telling me about digging holes out in farmers' fields. So that's what that picture is. Some of the activities and workshops, we did the School for Beginning Beef. This was the second year of that. That was a virtual online 6 nights over Zoom that we did on that program. The Forage Council meeting, that's something Jerry leads, but we incorporated 2 beef-centric topics on that this year. We did a beef quality assurance training. We had 2 of them in Northwest Wisconsin, also producing quality beef meeting. And so I would say all those workshops, me being newer, I did those in partnership with other livestock educators, not the same educators every time, but trying to incorporate myself with that statewide team we have as well to pull some of those opportunities into this part of the state. So if you have more questions on that, please let me know. I'm trying not to go on side tangents tonight for the sake of time. The picture on the lower right might be hard to see. But I just thought this would be a cute story because we talk about meeting people where they're at. And I've struggled over the years, like exactly what does that mean? How does that feel? So that is a cow sale barn and the ring that they put the cows through for the auction. And that's where we're doing this particular workshop. So we're kind of looking around like, how are we going to set up for this? And we're like, we'll just go in the sale ring. And so we can kind of tease that steel cage around there was not to protect us, but it was to protect the audience from Bill and Ryan as we were working that day. And then there's a few other things more on the maybe facilitation side. As you know, we get asked to write articles and do interviews and so forth. So my time here, I've been asked to participate in some Wisconsin agriculturalists, Midwest Forage, and cattle trails articles. Midwest Forage was an opportunity for me to branch out from maybe some of the more beef-centric things I've been asked to do earlier and talk a little bit more about forage planning and doing a forage inventory, which was kind of fun. And then the facilitation where I didn't have a direct teaching role, but Jerry and I worked together to bring a farm succession workshop here in this building in January. The Western Wisconsin A-Letters Conference is something Jerry and I have had a long-term involvement with and have decided to keep going as long as we can keep that going. And then tabling at the Eau Claire Farm Show, and Margaret and Jerry are both heavily involved in that as well. And then just kind of a snapshot of like, there's a lot of variety in this job, which is something I think a lot of us enjoy and keeps us in this career. And so I thought this would be an opportunity to bring some of that variety out. But I'm new to this position, this area, but not new to extensions. So one of the things I was not let off the hook for my previous position was as faculty, we do an annual review, but then once every 5 years, we do a more comprehensive review as well. And I happened to be due up for that review at the same time that I was trying to make this transition here. It worked out in the end. It was fine. Deanna, I think, questioned if I was fine some days, but it was fine. But that gets more into the summary of the teaching and the research and the service that we do. So that's something maybe a little unique to Jerry and I's position, being more long-term tenured employees in the organization, that if we decided to maintain the career path that we were on, that this research component was going to be a part of that going forward. So what I had to do is accumulate the copies of the teaching materials, the articles, all that materials that we develop on our own. The workshop evaluations, that's kind of that pre-post. What did you know going into? What did you learn going out? One of the newer things we've been asked to do is these teaching evaluations, and how that difference is it's more centric on was Ryan prepared, kind of more in my teaching style versus the content of the program. So that's something Jerry and I do have to keep working on going forward here in the next few years. Summaries of the research projects we've been working on. So the beef dairy thing is something might continue on. We're kind of wrapping it up, but there's still some crossover in livestock. Same with the calf management. That's something that we still have some crossover left to go. The milk quality, my previous position is more dairy centric, so that is something that I have been able to bowl on. So my next research projects are going to look a little bit different, but just to give you a flavor of some of the things that we do. I think Jerry talked about this on the crop side. These are some some ideas of what we run into on the dairy livestock side, along with the articles and some of the roles that we have in our professional association as well as our academic department. I was hesitant to put those very last bullet points on there because I don't think the numbers tell the full story. It's not always about how many people you have there, but getting the right people there. So keeping that in mind, but we do get asked when you do some of the video work or some of the articles, is anybody watching this? Is anyone reading this? You can see in the numbers there, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Some of those views, the one with 26, I'm like, okay, I learned I need to do some things a little different here. The one with higher view count. So there's a variety there, different interests there, but that just gives you kind of a range of what we run into. Same with some of the article counts that we're able to do now with our revamped websites, which we weren't able to do a couple years ago. So we're able to gather a little bit more information than maybe what we did previously. So going forward, I wasn't quite sure how to frame this. So I'm calling it awareness building. So this is where Deanna and her office support really comes in, along with the other ops members in the area. She manages the Facebook page for the Dunn County Extension Office. So we're trying to think of how do we build some more general awareness, along with working with the farmers, kind of how do we tell our story a little bit more of just what we do with the general public and with committees like this. So after some head scratching, here's just a couple of the pilot things that we're putting out there. So the how much meat is something we just posted very recently within the last week, and just kind of framing that within regional livestock educator. It's a new position or newer position. So what are the kind of some of the things that we work on? And so that's one where we talked about if you're buying a whole animal or a quarter from a farmer, if you buy a 1,400-pound steer, I hate to break it to you, you're not getting 1,400 pounds of hamburger back. It's going to look different in what you actually receive. And then, so if people aren't used to that, their first time doing it, we obviously get some questions on that of, did I really get back what I paid for? I'm like, yeah, you did. But that's where an opportunity, again, to partner not just within educators within our geography, but Beth Wackel, familiar name to Kristen, she had already had a head start working on this before I moved in this position. So that's been an opportunity for Beth and I to reconnect, tap into her expertise, and how can we work together to bring some of this also to our counties as well. So there's a link to the Facebook page if you're curious about some of this. The scissor clip thing that's not posted yet, but again, that's something Jerry and I have been working on. Again, just kind of describing, we try to go out to a couple farms in the spring, just see how the alfalfa crop is coming along. It's a ground truthing for Jerry and I to just kind of see for ourselves how some of the local farm fields are looking like. Not on a morning like this. On a morning like this, I got to chase cows this morning, but we'll be doing that a couple more times. But that'll be wrapping up here quite soon. And then just with that, one more link I'd bring your attention to. We have the Extension in the Valley newsletter. That's between Jerry, Margaret, and myself. So if you want to get on the list, it's more ag-centric, but upcoming events, we put articles, current topics in there. So that comes out about once a month. And I believe last thing on that, Jerry has a pop-up field day tomorrow. So if you are willing to brave the rain, that's going to be at the Chippewa demo site. But that's kind of some of the things that we try and work into making some of the announcements in the newsletter like that. So with that, that's kind of the short and sweet version. I was trying to keep it on time as best I could, but definitely wanted to leave some time for questions as well.
Go ahead, Larry.
What they pay us, we got lots of time to listen. Matt, I recognized one of your slides there. It looked like Equity Co-op sale barn.
It was.
Okay, so seeing that I'm always good at handing out jobs for extension agents. I was there this morning for the slaughter cow sale at noon. They sell slaughter cows on Tuesday and Thursday, and I was there with a cow that had an unfortunate birth, and the calf is dead, and she looks at me and says, well, what do we do now? And I says, well, I'm not going to feed you for a year. You're going to get a ride to town. So the cow and I went to Equity this morning and unloaded there, and there probably was 100 trucks. And you would think that with 100 trucks there unloading cattle, that prices would be depressed, but prices are not depressed, because one of the things that you could graph is the United States cow herd. That's the lowest since 1950. And then the price of meat and how the inverse happens with cow numbers down, beef prices up. So on a Tuesday and Thursday at noon, anytime you're near Highway 53, or Equity Sale Barn, at Altoona they call it, swing on in and watch them sell cows. It's an interesting experience. And then I was thinking, something we don't hear a lot about is the number of baby calves that go through the market facilities. And what you do hear about every morning, well, Friday and well, every day, but the day when you're listening to Jerry at 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, you'll also hear a market report from Stratford and Altoona and Premier Livestock. And the crazy thing in farming right now is the prices that they're paying for baby calves. And even big time commercial black and white Holstein dairy farms are breeding a lot of those cows to beef bulls for that particular market, for calf market, because calves that used to sell for maybe $100 or $200 are now selling for $1,100 or $1,200. So farmers are fairly smart when they say, I'll give you $1,200 for that calf, or do you want to keep it? Well, most of them say, see you later, calf. So somewhere along the line, this cow herd number needs to be rebuilt up. And I keep hearing that even heifer calves that go to market that ought to be going back into reproduction, dairy cows, are often, going into feedlots because the price is so good. So I would talk to Matt Lippert, Marathon, and see if he's got any numbers that Premier Livestock at Withy puts out as far as the number of baby calves that they handle. And Equity Co-op is a co-op, so they have an annual meetings and they have their reports. And you would also get some kind of an idea on how many calves are going through the market and probably not going back into the breeding herd, but actually going, to feedlots. So you get that cow number thing all the time. And those were good numbers, but it'd have been better numbers if you would have said or showed us what they were 5 or 10 years ago, because there's the shocking number, is the change over the period of time. But get a chance, go watch them slaughter cows on Tuesday and Thursday at Equity, and rub shoulders with some interesting characters. I was one of them this morning, and I'm thinking, what a group. But but it's it's the business end. It's the business end of beef production, and it kind of hinges on that equity sale barn type of cattle, where you're either got slaughter cows that are going into the hamburger market, or you've got feeder cattle every second or third Friday, and those were 700 pound calves, yearlings, that would be going to feedlots. Or the big secret is, where are all these baby calves going, and where can they go and actually come out on being paid $1,100 or $1,200? There's a lot out of state, big time out of state sales of cattle. So it's fun. Okay.
No, I think that's a good point. And I think we can find some of those historical numbers, especially now that I got a little bit better framework to find some of these more encompassing numbers than what I was able to find earlier. I guess maybe partly to your point, that is a conversation we've been hearing more for some of the dairy farmers, what they are getting paid for the beef cross calves. But at the same time, the number of dairy heifers has gone down. So some are kind of cutting back now and going back to breeding more dairy. because the dairy heifer price has also come up now, so there's a little bit more of a competition there. Whereas before it was maybe a little more clear cut that the beef was paying better. We've tried to find out where some of these calves are going. It's private information. It's hard to get. But we do know more of these calves are also going private treat. A lot go through the sale barn, but there's also a lot that their truck routes and whatnot that are picking them up. So we can get a partial number, but it's not going to account for, we know there's a private treaty out there, but again, that's private.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none?
Excuse me, Bob, can
Yeah.
I just, one thing I forgot in my report is we are going to be doing our annual presentation at the board next month. And so I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So our annual report will be shared, and then, so we have put together a video that we're going to show to introduce staff, but the bulk of it is going to be, we're going to bring in some 4-H youth and some 4-H participants to come and talk to the board about their experiences and why 4-H is, how it has helped them develop and different things. So we're putting that together right now. So just wanted to give you a heads up that that is us next month and along with others, but didn't want to surprise you. So. Dairy month. Oh, and typically we would bring in cheese curds years ago.
Still can, all right. Any further questions? Seeing none? Items placed at the request of the chair, economic development update. Adam's not on.
Adam's not on.
Okay.
Dunn County EDC is, I believe, meeting right now. So I was at the Greater Menominee Economic Development Corporation, so I got a sneak peek into Adam's presentation this morning. So I think one of the biggest things related to economic development that's been going on is they just did kind of a walking tour of businesses in the parks here in Menominee, so in the industrial park, the Stout Tech Park. In the Menominee area, met with 44% of the businesses. They were in contact with all of them, but tried to schedule times to go through and meet with all of them. And those, the point of those meetings is their the business retention and expansion meetings. So they're really just talking to these companies to find out, what are the problems that you're seeing, what are some of the challenges that you need to overcome, and just getting a good feel for what are those different things that are happening so that they can build a plan in order to help these businesses continue to stay in Menominee and potentially expand. So I think for the most part, they said they had really good meetings with the people that they were able to schedule time with. The unscheduled times were maybe a little short, and just here's some talking points on a flyer. But and to your question earlier, and as Garrett had pointed out, one of the big feedback items was childcare, and specifically in those multi-shift environments. One of the examples they had said, one company felt determined that they had to turn away 50% of their qualified candidates because of childcare issues. So when you talk about filling those positions, it's a huge component of that. So that and other takeaways. So I think they had a pretty successful, this was the first kind of campaign of that. And as Adam has come on board, making that one of the items that he's going to continue to do from year to year, and to build upon that over time so that we don't forget about the businesses that we already have.
So other things that we hear, from the board and everybody else is also housing. Has that been brought up too as well, or is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sparing you that part. So, right.
Any questions for Dan on economics? All right, Dunn County Communications.
Yeah, somewhat busy week in the communications world and in press releases. the rural doorstop route. So if you're unfamiliar with this, the transit department has a new plan they've put in place that every Tuesday, well, there's 4 quadrants of the county that they have built, and each quadrant will be kind of served on a Tuesday. So the first Tuesday of the month will be quadrant 1, 2, so on and so forth. So really just getting the word out about that, and that's something that they've gone back and forth with different models to be able to serve the residents in the far reaches of the county, so outside of the city of Menominee. And just driving a bus 20 miles to not pick up anybody isn't efficient, so you need to know that somebody is going to be there. And so they had a route that went through that wasn't successful, and then they've gone with more of a call for service type model, which wasn't greatly successful. So this is just another option to go out to try and serve more of that community, to see if this is a model that will work, and obviously it will grow over time and how that works. And so really just trying to get the word out about that, so people are aware that on Tuesdays, if you need a ride to the city for a little while to pick up something at a store, to go to a doctor's appointment, something like that, figure out what Tuesday it is, make your appointment, and contact the transit department, and they can help you out with that. So spread the word, and that's why that press release came out. And then another press release around mental health awareness training, as you can see from our ribbons outside of the building. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, so a training that went out about that, and then a news release just celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Western Regional Recovery and Wellness Consortium, which is an acronym of RWC. I feel like they're missing letters, but it makes it easier. So getting the word out about that, as well as really all of the other information that we try to get out on a monthly basis about what's happening in the county, and our and in our committee meetings and our board meetings, and getting that word out. So it's been good.
Anybody had anything to add or any questions? Dan?
Any update on broadband stuff on the beat or anything, or?
So the BEAD program is, we'll call it good. The BEAD program is still going forward. The Public Service Commission is doing the second round of awards for BEAD right now. So they've actually awarded the first round, and the awardees know, but they are not making them public. So I don't know anything about what's going on, other than they're doing that second round of awards right now. And that is the intent, is they're going to go through I believe it was 4 rounds of awards before they're really going to make that public. And that's, so part of the reason they're not sharing that is there was kind of this initial phase of, if you were going to do fiber and it kind of worked financially, then that was round 1. Round 2 was, all right, maybe this was a little bit more expensive, so let's look at these different areas. And then as we get into round 3, I believe, is where you brought in alternate technologies to be able to cover those areas outside of fiber. So there's, to share how much somebody bid on one kind of shows the hands for those future rounds of bids. So that's why they're keeping that quiet. But so that is moving forward. And once that's done, everything will get announced, and then everybody starts running. So, and I should say the funding of that also did talk about short-term and long-term projects. So you are going to see some that are awarded to break ground in a year, and some of them that could be 3 to 4 years out before they start getting done.
But we're still, we're not having, we have company, I'm thinking like the Mosaic,
Mhm.
where they are in the north. I mean, there aren't any other companies that will pirate into their supposed area. I mean, is that the way, or how does that, what happens?
So I mean, The BEAD project fully allows for that to happen, and I don't want to say encourages it, but the idea of competition is intended to be
Okay.
a good thing, right? Because that brings pricing down. The reality of that is someone kind of jumping over somebody's area is going to have an extremely high cost because you have to connect your other area to that new area. So if it isn't adjacent, you have to pay for fiber to get you from place A to place B, and that's expensive.
But if you have a, let's just say a handful of potential customers in your area, but you're really working towards a larger number of customers, and you then can go through the lesser amount, the bigger amount makes the lesser, I don't want to end up, where we have pockets in Dunn County where, yeah, they went right by our place to go down the road, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I don't expect that to happen. It could, but I doubt it. Yeah, and mainly from a bead standpoint, we're really looking at that one area just to the north of Wheeler. That is the area that we are kind of hoping on bead for. The rest of the county is covered through other projects.
Good.
Except for like 10 houses in town of Sherman.
Any further questions for communications? Seeing none. Item 7, consideration of action to be taken by the Community Resource and Tourism Committee, none. Reports, resolutions, ordinances for county board from the Community Resources and Tourism Committee, I see none. Anybody got any announcements besides next month's presentation? See none, next meeting will be June 17th, 4:30, right here in this room. Anybody got anything else you want to add? All right, meeting adjourned.